Matt and Leah, 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 Matt and Leah. Matt and Leah, Matt and Leah, Matt and Leah, Matt and Leah. Matt and Leah, Matt and Leah, Matt and Leah, Matt and Leah. A pancake!
What is up, boys and girls, and everything in between? It's Bear With Us. I am Matt. She is Leah. Leah, how are you, my dear?
I'm good. I've been reading the comments on the YouTube, and I read a few comments that I've been phoning it in on the introduction. I just haven't been able to be myself. I feel like my body's not, functioning properly. I can't really, sway my head too much. So I really have been, swaying it, phoning it in, and I feel bad about that. But I promise I won't do that forever.
Don't
apologize.
apologize.
I'll be back.
Don't apologize to them, because I am being very, very forward and honest when I say that today I am, in fact, phoning it in.
You
from
can't
afar.
phone it in because you are the captain of the ship.
I mean,
You
I'm
steer the
trying.
ship.
I'm not intentionally phoning it in, but right now I am running on empty. I am running on fumes. All of the different metaphors for being freaking exhausted. I just got off a plane, an hour and a half ago?
Right. My husband, my hero.
You informed me that, we need to do this for the Bear With Us faithful. So I am here. I'm attempting to power through.
I love that.
And I'm not going to half-ass
You're
anything.
so brave.
They have my word.
You're gonna use
To
your
quote-
whole.
To quote the great Homer Simpson, give credit where it's due.
I don't. I just know you say it all the time.
Because you don't like The Simpsons, because you just
Not that I
hate
don't
fun and
like
puppies
The
and Santa Claus as
Simpsons.
well.
I just never grew up watching it. Like, my parents didn't watch it. My parents were like, oh, let's throw on The Simpsons. They were always watching Seinfeld. I don't know. I never watched The Simpsons.
Well, maybe you should give it a shot one of these days. It's one of the greatest American television programs ever.
I just have a really hard time watching something that you forced me to watch. Like, not that you're forcing me, but you're like, you have to watch The Simpsons. It's great. I'm like, You know when I tell you how great something is, you're like,
Okay, no,
you want to discover it for yourself.
I'm going to disagree with you, because yesterday you sent me a text message while I was at work, and you said, hey, I'm watching this new show on Netflix or HBO or whatever it was. I think you'd really love it. So I said, maybe don't watch the entire thing today so that I can get eyes on it. I didn't say no. I didn't say...
But, something from when we were kids or something that I've been upset, like Friends, for example. I'm always like, oh, Friends is so good. I can't believe you don't like Friends. And for the longest time, you were not watching it. And until recently, it was on TV and you were like, you know what? I do like this, but I never forced it on you because I figured you would just never love it like I love it. But now you do. And
Right.
I love that for
Which is
both
all
of
the
us.
more reason you should give The
I don't
Simpsons
even really
a
know what I'm
chance.
saying. I'm not a cartoon girl. I just don't like cartoons. I'm making up all the excuses.
God.
I just don't like cartoons. I'm not a cartoon. Unless it's a Disney movie from when we were kids, I don't watch cartoons.
Well, I think this is another opportunity for the faithful Bear With Us listeners to log in and subscribe and comment to let you know just how mistaken you are, much like you experienced last week.
I did. DigiorNO is a no-go. DigiorNO is a no-no.
And at no point was DigiorNO ever disparaged or thought less of. Still a big DigiorNO fan. In fact, DigiorNO came in the clutch this past Saturday night. Anyone who follows my social media realizes we were victims of an unfortunate pizza mishap, the likes of which I have never seen before.
Pizzagate.
We have
2022.
No, I think there's like a Pizzagate that's a real weird political thing that involves. Yeah, I don't want.
Well, I'm not getting into
dive
politics.
into that. Don't use that hashtag to discuss this issue. But yeah, anyone that follows me on the Twitter machine got a glimpse of the most catastrophic pizza delivery in the history of pizza. I am convinced this wasn't a case for those of you who may not seen it. And nothing
We'll
will
post it on the Bear With Us Instagram.
Nothing will do it quite as much justice as you seeing with your very own eyes. We've all had pizza deliveries go awry, right? Maybe the cheese slid off. Maybe the topping stuck to the top of the box. This was done with malice. If it weren't via Uber Eats, which I know for a fact is anonymous, that's kind of the beauty of it, right? It doesn't say, hey, you're delivering to Matt at this address and you know him
does.
from...
It has your name.
Well, it has my name, but they wouldn't know... Yeah.
I don't know. You're a Pittsburgh guy. Maybe they did know.
Maybe they did. Maybe the guy who was driving for Uber Eats, because I'm not blaming the issue is not with the pizza place. So, because I got a couple comments being like, why would you put the pizza place on blast? I wasn't putting them on blast. I was just tagging them saying
know,
hey guys, I know you use Uber Eats. Just let you know this is happening.
It's their product.
Right.
Yeah.
It was not an indictment of them. I still will happily order from them, just not via Uber Eats.
Right.
Saturday, we had a hell of a day, long, busy, productive day.
My parents were in town.
Right. I had my son. We went to the baseball game.
Yep.
Awesome day. Everything was perfect. Let's cap it off with a nice little bit of za.
Yeah, we were hungry.
I'm ashamed
we
that
didn't
I
feel
said
like
za.
cooking.
I've never in my adult life referred to pizza as za, and that was the first
okay.
time, and I will never
Probably
do it
the
again.
last.
It felt dirty.
Yeah, it was a little bit of a turnoff, but that's okay. I still love you.
Okay, well, I appreciate it. I'll try to get you worked back up by the end of the show.
But this was my dad's first experience with the Uber Eats, where they live. I'm from Spencer, Massachusetts, you guys, middle of nowhere.
One stoplight town.
We don't have Uber Eats. We
Or
don't have
electricity.
delivery. We barely have street lights, okay? So for my dad, was like, he thinks it's so amazing you can just get food delivered, right? So he's like, oh, do you want me to go pick it up, or we're gonna go get it? Are you gonna do delivery? And Matt's like, no, we'll just get it on Uber Eats. So I mean, we don't even have Ubers in Spencer, so it's like all very foreign to him. So we get it delivered, and then okay, we're in the living room, and Matt goes into the kitchen, open the box, and he is freaking out. He's like, are you fucking kidding me? What the is this shit? He's like pissed.
I found new uses for the word, the F word. I
Yes.
think I'd used it in ways that maybe no other English-speaking human has ever used before. I got a little creative, got a little
Yes.
loose with my tongue. But the problem was, it was a great day. We were
Right.
all having a great time. Everything was just nice. It would be a great way to finish the day. Hey,
Yes.
nice little bit of pizza. We're going to sit down together and watch TV, watch the pay-per-view that was on.
Yeah.
Great, no problem, right? I opened this box, and what is inside could best be described as a massacre. It looked like half of a slaughtered animal of some sort.
I mean, there was ranch dressing in there in little containers, and the top of it was melted off. That's how it was. Like the ranch dressing was inside the pizza somehow.
Had it not been from Uber Eats, which I generally believe requires a vehicle of some sort, at least a bicycle,
Yeah, it was a car.
I would have been totally 1,000% convinced that it was Ace Ventura as a UPS driver doing cartwheels with the pizza. There was malice behind this.
Yes.
Somebody.
It wasn't an accident.
It wasn't like, oh, it slid off the seat because it came in a little hot around the bend.
Right.
It was malicious.
And here's the thing: if this was the Uber driver's fault, which 99% sure
It
it was, right? If he came up to the house and was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Like, I don't even know how that. Like, I took a wrong turn, or this person in front of me hit on their brakes," and he was like honest and open. Okay, I would have been annoying, sure, but
Right.
at least he would have admitted fault, and he still wouldn't have gotten a shitty review and maybe lost his job. I don't know, but he didn't even acknowledge, and he knew because on the outside of the pizza box there was oil all over the side. Like, you had to have known this was done when he dropped it off.
He must have carried it up the porch like a trapper keeper
Yeah.
under his arm, just
For real.
vertically. You don't do that. Take care of the pizza. Damn it.
Yes.
But once that all was
No, so then my dad, right? My dad is so old school. He goes, Matt, give me the number of this Uber driver. I'd like to give him a call. And it's like, Dad, you can't just call the Uber driver. Like, we can't even get the Uber driver's number once the delivery has been received.
Completed,
Like,
right.
you can't get the number. So my dad's like, I don't know how you even order delivery if you can't even get a phone number from anybody. And he's like all freaking out and wanted to call the guy. I'd like to talk to the manager. Like, oh my God, he just makes me laugh so hard. And it's like, Dad, that's not how it works. We already got the food. There's nothing we can be done. What's done is done. So my mom and I are trying to talk you two assholes off a ledge because you're both working each other up into a frenzy.
a lather.
It was just a lot was happening. But luckily, we had a DigiorNO in the freezer, so it came in clutch. But I will admit, I mean, I'm not like Matt, you guys. When we're on here, Matt never, ever, ever can admit if he's wrong. He's like, well, this is why everyone said this. This is why I'm the only one in this little opinion. But for me, I will admit, most people did not agree with me about my DigiorNO comment, and that's okay. I like a good DiGiorno, but you know what? Maybe I'm just not exposed to all of these different types.
You don't want to give The Simpsons a try. You don't want to try other delicious brands of frozen pizza.
I do want to try other brands. Now I really want to try this Newman's one everyone talks about.
Yeah, the buffalo chicken.
I want to try it.
It's quite a way to live.
I'm going to try it.
Okay, good.
And I'm going to open
We're going to hold you to that. And while you're stepping into new frontiers, I, Matt, solemnly swear that in the event that I am ever mistaken on this podcast, I will take fault.
Yeah, okay.
I will admit it. I will
What
apologize
about all the times
immediately.
in the past?
I know not what you speak of.
I have something that I want to say. This
Oh.
is not a very subtle
I was like,
subtle
that was not a good
transition.
transition. So we're obviously just throwing the heavy artillery here.
Babe,
What?
we've been married for 2 months today.
Sure have.
It's June 7th.
Yeah.
Can you believe it?
It feels like it was yesterday.
You think?
Yeah.
How have the first 2 months of marriage been for you?
Well, ironically enough, I have seen you less in the first 2 months of marriage than I have seen you in like the last year of our lives because of just work schedules and
I've been
not traveling.
Injured I've been putting a little bit out there, but we don't need to go into that. But I haven't been going to work. And so I've been home and you've been working and I've been home and you've been working.
And part of me, each and every time I get on the plane and know that I'm coming home in a day and a half, whatever that time frame may be, maybe this is going to be the week where I come home and my wife is wearing high heels and an apron, putting a DigiorNO in the oven.
DigiorNO, Newman's, I thought.
Or
like DigiorNO.
I was just trying to pander to you.
First of all, when you come home,
I don't even know what the hell I'm
always
talking
have
about right now,
everything
babe.
clean
It
and
does.
ready for you. I like to cook for you. I made you a blueberry pie 2 weeks ago,
You
a
did.
homemade blueberry pie. I'm
With,
basically
like,
Betty Crocker
Yeah.
over here.
Yeah. I'll give you
So,
all the credit. It was
I
a
think I'm a good
spectacular
wife.
pie. You're a great wife.
I love being a
You're
wife.
really leaning into the housewife thing. I just would like to see you do it in an apron.
That's a little chauvinistic.
Is
of
it?
you. Yes.
Isn't it? I thought, like, can I just be like a dude that thinks his wife is super hot and would like to come home and
I'd be like, I want to see you wear construction boots and a hard hat.
let's hit Home Depot right around the corner. If that's what it takes, baby.
I think you with a hard hat. Although I will say your
hard what?
dad. I was going to say hard hat.
You did say hard hat.
But you said a hard what? Your dad sent me a thirst trap photo of you this morning.
Let's just pause. I just want you to repeat that slowly.
Your dad sent me a thirst trap photo of you.
Not my father
this
did
morning.
not send you a thirst trap. Just to clarify anything, my father did not send you a thirst trap photo of himself because God
my
only hopes
God.
those don't exist.
But I was like, okay, like, how do I respond to my father-in-law? Like, what do I say, right? Because obviously he was sending it to me because he thought, oh, I bet Leah will think he looks really good in this picture. It's like this picture. If
It was like a promo photo from years
Yes.
back when I was wrestling and I was in great
on
shape.
the YouTube, this is the photo.
And I mean, I'd do me. That's the best my abs ever looked.
Anyway, so my father-in-law sends me this photo. First of all, it's so weird to say father-in-law. That's crazy. I've never had a father-in-law, just a father by birth, but not by law. So I have a father-in-law, and he sent me this thirst trap photo of my husband. What do I say to that? You know, because I know he was saying it or sending it because he'd be like, oh, Leah will probably think Matt looks hot or something.
Please tell me your response was yes, Zaddy.
I actually
to my
said,
dad.
wowza, in all caps with 3 heart eyes. And he said, I thought you might like that.
Okay.
So I figured he was sending it to me to be like, you know, look at my son. He's hot.
My
or
dad's a
something,
hell of a
you know?
wingman. What can I say?
Great wingman.
Doing the
And
Lord's work.
seeing that picture, I was like, okay, Zaddy. Anyway, if you had a hard hat on in that photo, like that, a hard hat, no shirt, maybe like some suspenders and some work boots.
Cool.
I think
No
that's
problem.
hot.
I'll pretend that I was on a construction site all day. Next Tuesday when I come home, I will have cat boots on, caterpillar
Cat
boots,
boots.
right? And that with that's
Caterpillar,
like,
yeah.
yeah. I'll have those on and some flannel.
That I think
And
that's
a hard
that's
hat.
hot. I think, like, you know, a lot of women fantasize about, you know, their husband or partner or something. Like, I wonder what most women's fantasy. It's got to be like construction worker, maybe a firefighter.
Right, like I gave the most stereotypical, to your point, chauvinistic. I want to come home to you in high heels.
Misogynist,
Yeah, but because that's like everybody has heard that fantasy, that right? That's just a very common thing. It's in entertainment. It's everywhere. People are like it's almost a trope,
Right.
where like it's such a common thing that everybody goes, oh yeah, of course. But
Like what would you say for
I would
men? It'd
guess
be like
I would.
a
I don't know what I
maid?
did to my.
It's stuck in your chair. There you go.
There we go. I would guess, I would venture to guess that the fireman still exists.
Yeah.
A lot of places.
A fireman. Yeah, it's like, oh, help me, I'm trapped. You want to, like, women fantasize about being saved, even though we don't need men to save us. We can save ourselves, but we can pretend.
Baby, you play
we
your
need to be
cards right.
saved.
You can climb up the tree in the backyard. I'll put on my suspenders and bring you a step stool because that's
But
all the
what
energy
about
I have
men?
today.
I would say like schoolgirl.
Now, see that
or,
to
like,
me, yeah, I don't
teacher,
dig that, but
maid.
yeah, it's a common one. Yes, the French maid. I don't know why it's always French, but
Yeah.
apparently
Like,
that's
oh,
I mean, I would not be mad if I came home to that, any of those things.
And me dressed like a maid?
I just think it would be hot to just come home, like, obviously, as I said, I had this, like, it's a fantasy in my head. Like, maybe today's the day I'm going to come back and this is going to happen. I don't know. I just think it's like a thing. I think a lot of guys probably fantasize about that. Like, just coming home to, like, a sexy environment and you being like, I've missed you. Come home.
Like, bonjour, Zadie.
Even better. Really go all in. These acting classes are paying off, baby.
What would you think? What's your, if you say you're not into the maid or the schoolgirl, then what do you think other
I mean,
guys
there's a ton of, I'm trying to think. Because I mean they're all very cliche. They're all kind of the same. I don't know.
Hot for teacher.
Yeah, I mean that works that way. Yeah, the hot teacher. I don't know.
A maid, I guess. I'm gonna get an apron and nothing else, and I'm going to put a DigiorNO in the oven. Well, okay, so for example, even we were watching Clueless. We showed your kids Clueless a few weeks ago, right? And Cher puts in roll of cookies in the oven. She's like, you always need to have something baking when a guy comes over. It's just so funny that even in the 90s, I know it was kind of like a joke and play on it, but that's the thing. Like, guys want to be taken care of and women want to be saved. Right? Would you say that's sort of like the old school way of thinking about things?
Yeah, the damsel in distress.
Old school gender roles.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, and I think it's probably what it's based on is like the romanticization,
romanticizing it in your head.
Yeah, my brain is
all the isms
not working. But yeah, the damsel in distress and the big strapping strong man who,
Yeah, like Gaston. Why do I have such a crush
why
on
was Gaston the bad guy? I mean, because to me as a man, I'm like, I want to be Gaston.
You would.
Hell yeah.
We talk about Gaston more than we talk about anything.
I would say,
this podcast.
Remember, didn't we have a conversation on this show about like which Disney princesses?
Yeah.
Gaston to me is probably the most like
That's your
overall
hall pass?
attractive. I'm just saying from a dude's perspective, I find it more fascinating to be Gaston than to be with any of the princesses.
Or what?
Yeah, no, to be Gaston, not to be with Gaston. To me as a guy watching, I'm like, man,
to be Prince Charming, you'd rather be Gaston.
I would 100% rather be Gaston than Prince Charming.
Right. Well, that goes with my whole thought process of we're like tying all of our past podcast episodes into this.
Yeah, this
one
is like
right
a
here.
greast hits because we're just on autopilot.
But I feel like as it ties into my idea that women want a guy that's a little bit of a dick, and that's why Gaston is like attractive because he's like something you hate about him, but you're like, but I bet once you get through those layers, maybe he's a nice guy deep down.
And that's another thing. I think women love to fix as much as we were talking to Dr. Paz last week. And shout out to the good doctor. What an awesome episode. If you haven't caught it yet, make sure you head back in the archives. It was informative and a great deal of fun. But she was talking about how guys, when they're presented with information, they want to fix it. And they want to figure out what the problem is and they want to solve it. Yeah. I feel like on a deeper scale, maybe women like to fix, so to speak, guys in any capacity. Like what you just said, like, okay, Gaston's kind of a dick, but you think maybe if you got him in the right environment and got him home, you could make him, be...
Case in point, my husband. When I first met you, and I'd be like, why is this guy so miserable all the time? Why is this guy such a dick? Whatever. I mean, I didn't have to think much about you. And then when you started reaching out to me a few years ago, I'm like, when I actually took the time to talk to you and get to know you, he's a nice guy.
Now that I'm grown, I eat 5 dozen eggs, so I'm roughly the size of a barge. I know we're running short on time today.
We're not short on time. What we need to do is really dive into the mailbag because we have one question that I really want to spend some time on.
Even better. All right, so we're going to spend a little extra time in the mailbag today. Wait. Before Blue, oh my God.
I took a deep breath. I needed to let it out.
It was like a 2.5 second deep breath.
Babe, I can't swim underwater. I can't hold my breath. I have a really hard time holding my breath.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Anyway, while Blue is preparing to dive in the mailbag, we urge you and remind you to follow, subscribe, and refill the official Bear With Us mailbag, Bear With Us pod, POD, @gmail.com, so we can help screw up your life a little bit less.
Here's the mail, it never fails and makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes, I want to wail.
Look at you getting all breathy. See, if I had walked in the front door and been serenaded like that, even though you're wearing my T-shirt, it probably would have worked just as well as a French maid costume.
Like, oh, bonjour, Zadie. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Would you like some escargot? Oh, bonjour, je m'appelle Leah. Oh, comment allez-vous? Oh, je suis désolée. Oh. Okay.
Did you say Cirque du Soleil?
Je suis désolée.
You are the sun?
No, that's Spanish.
I don't know. That's what I was asking.
Babe, just un peu. Okay. Poo-poo. You smell like poo-poo. Goodbye. Adios.
You sound like Pierre Escargot.
Au revoir. Okay. Question. Oh, actually, no. We have an update first. We have an update.
God.
Let me do an update. We love our updates.
I do.
You
love a
guys,
good
we
update.
just did this one not that long ago. This is a really good one. Okay, so everything you said when answering the question was right. It was a major red flag, and I was tiptoeing around the whole situation. For background, should I read the question that she asked?
Oh, I don't know what the question was. Is this the cat person?
No, this is the girl whose husband said she should go stay with her sister.
Oh,
remember where her sister got a place because
yeah.
she went to college nearby, and the husband was like, when you go stay with your sister, like we just will cut off communication and we won't talk.
Yeah,
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Okay. So she says, for background, we've been together for 10 years, so I was having a hard time realizing it. What happened was that I did move in with my sister. It was hard at first, but the best decision I have made. It literally changed my whole life. He and I tried working things out for a couple months, but that stopped pretty quickly. In our time apart with no communication, I did actually meet someone who has been incredible to me. I did end up taking Matt's advice before hearing it. Divorce his ass. LOL. My ex didn't show that he cared at all about me until he found out someone else like me. It's crazy how time changes everything. Damn.
Yep.
So they got a divorce.
Well, that wasn't.
Shit.
I don't know. She said she took my advice and
Right.
seemed happy for it. So, congrats.
Right.
Congratulations. Hell yeah. Well done.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do think time apart from your partner does help you realize things. Maybe it's, they say absence makes a heart grow fonder, and if it's not growing fonder, then it's growing farther apart. Farther apart.
You want to try that again, babe?
Farther apart. So I do think, if you're not missing your partner, that's a major red flag. And if you're happier when they're not around, another major red flag. So, I mean, it always works out the way it's supposed to. We'll never be on this podcast and be like, yeah, you should get a divorce. Like, that's not our...
No, this should always be a
exactly.
option.
But this ended up working out for her. So it's a blessing in disguise that her sister ended up moving close. She ended up moving in with her sister.
There you go. So now just
always
take this
works
time to focus on you and live your best life with your sister and this new individual who has stepped into your life and see where it goes. So
Do you, boo-boo?
happy for you.
Love that for you. Okay, here's the big question. Question number 1, honey. This is the big question. How do you guys deal with Leah coming in as a stepmom? We get a lot of questions like this, and I feel like we kind of dive into it a little bit, but I think this question, the way that they word this question really breaks things down. Were there expectations from Matt on what kind of role you would play, or what a stepmom would look like to your family? I have 2 kids of my own with an ex, and my partner and I have just welcomed our first child together back in March. The dynamic between my partner and kids is an interesting one, and I'm not sure she's overly keen on being a stepmom to them or playing a mother-like role for them. My kids absolutely love and adore her. The feeling isn't very mutual, which is a bit of a heartbreaker, but I'm constantly told that I expect too much from her when it comes to my kids and that she'll never be able to treat them as her own, well, because they're not hers. I have shared custody of my kids, so I get them every week. We do half weeks. And every time I say something like, we have the kids this Saturday, I get the response, no, you have the kids this Saturday. My partner doesn't have the best connection with my daughter, who's basically my best friend being my first child. My daughter is like a female version of me. So she likes Marvel, wrestling, playing indoors, and isn't very sociable, which is not what my partner is used to seeing in a girl her age. She'll be 11 in August. So I think that's part of the barrier, although she won't admit it. We try and talk about the kids and what we can do, but it turns into an argument every time, and I'm really starting to question our relationship and if all this effort is worth it or nothing is going to change. Sorry about the novel, wasn't expecting it to be so long. Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, there are plenty of things to unpack
Yes.
in their question.
I think, starting it out, were there expectations? You can never have expectations, I think, or have set expectations for what you think the person's role is going to be.
I would agree with that, and I would say, and I can only speak from my own personal experience, that my priority once I began the divorce process became exclusively my kids. And you knew that coming in. And we were dating off and on for how long before you ever even met my kids.
Right.
But that was by design, because I it wasn't that I was afraid, but I was sort of looking out for their best interests. I didn't want to bring anybody else into their life on a regular basis to even allow there to be a connection made. Right. It wasn't so much that I was worried that you would meet them and they would love you and think you're awesome. It was that I was worried that if they thought you were awesome and then you and I didn't work out, that was going to hurt them.
And that was my biggest concern. I love kids, and I knew if I met your kids and I fell in love with them, and then maybe things weren't going to work out with us, but would I just stay because I felt bad because I liked the kids? I didn't want to start that connection with the kids, not knowing if you and I were going to be a thing, like not like a permanent thing.
Sure. And the part of the email where he said that we have the kids this weekend and they're not my kids. You and I have had that discussion early on, not in an adversarial manner. It wasn't like those aren't mine. It was just, you were trying to explain to me how it took a little longer for that connection to really lock in.
Right.
From your perspective.
Right. Well, when you send me memes or things and you're like, oh, when we can't do this weekend because the kids have sports. It's like a joking meme or something like that. And it's like, yeah, well, like, technically, I could go do something because I don't have children. I have 3 stepkids. So sometimes, once in a while, if it's like, hey, I'm going to go down and see my sister this weekend, and you're like, well, we have the kids. Okay, well, one weekend out of the month or one weekend every few months isn't the end of the world, because it's not like I have kids that I know rely on me and that I have to take care of and I have to bring here, there, and everywhere. If I do want to pick up once in a while, I can do that, because luckily they do have a mom and they do have a dad. And it is this weird adjustment, and it's this weird role, especially for me to kind of like step into, to be like, well, I don't want to overstep my boundaries as well. Sometimes if they're coming to me for advice, I'm going to give my advice, or if they're acting up once in a while, I am going to say something. But for the most part, I kind of let you do the disciplining, because I don't want to be like, well, this is the way you should do it, because ultimately, what if it's not the right way? They're not my kids. I don't know. And I don't want to say something or do something that is going to be a negative effect. And I just have this weird, sometimes I don't know what the right thing to do is, and I kind of go to you for advice, and you're like, no, if they're acting up, you say this, because sometimes I'm like, babe, I don't want them to get mad at me, can you tell them to do this? And you're like, just tell them. And I'm like, oh, I don't know, I feel so bad. It's just this whole weird dynamic that I don't think there is one right way to do it. Would you agree?
I would agree with that. I just think the most important thing is being open to the growth and the change, because how you are with them now versus how you were with them when you first met them or would see them once a month, it's a completely different role. Maybe not in your head, maybe in your mind, you still think, well, yeah, they're not my children, but they're a huge part of your life now. I mean, you're my wife. You are their stepmother now. Right. So you morphed into that role, or you stepped in, you sort of embraced it and it wasn't something like we had to have a conversation. It wasn't like, look, I'm going to need you to be more like this, or I expect this of you. Right. It's more something I watched from afar. And again, and to any other dads listening or any other guys listening, I couldn't give you any solid advice beyond, if it feels wrong, it probably is.
Right.
Because at no point did I ever feel like you weren't involved enough or you weren't taking initiative. There were times where I'd be like, oh man, I would love to just for Leah to go, hey, I'm going to take the girls to go hang out for the day. Like, I think that, but it was never something where I was like, oh my God, she's not. I kind of had to let you grow into it.
Right. Yeah. You can't force anything, because it is a lot for someone who goes from having no kids to now having 3 in their life every single week. That is a lot.
And they're already grown and formed.
Right.
They're not, my youngest, Lola, she was 4 when you met her, but so she's probably arguably closest with you because you've been a constant in her for almost half of her life now.
Right.
But my other 2 older kids, they think the world of you. They love you, but they sort of have their own way of doing things. So you were stepping not only into my life with them, you're stepping into their lives. Right. So you kind of have to handle it carefully.
Right.
And I would agree, there's no right or wrong way other than making sure that if you guys have an issue, you meaning the guy who wrote the email and your partner, try your absolute hardest to keep it away from the kids, particularly, until they're comfortable. If you and your partner or your girlfriend, I forget if they were married or not, or whatever the situation is, if you guys are having issues regarding the kids, keep it away from the kids.
Yeah.
It's not their fault. They didn't ask to be in this situation. They didn't have to. I hope maybe they did approve of your choice of your new partner. I mean, if they're old enough, that's great. But there's a lot of moving parts here, and there's no clean answer.
And I think to the question of like, she doesn't connect with the kid, the 11-year-old, because she's into Marvel and she's into this or that. That's
I think
okay.
that's
yeah, because
make an effort.
There's no. Like, you have a almost 14-year-old son.
Right.
I'm not a boy. I've never had a son, but we find things we can connect on. He likes certain things that I'm not into, but I can still like talk to him about other things, or I can try to show him, oh, have you ever seen this? And he's like, oh my God, no, what is that? You can make an effort. And same thing with the girls, like just because I also try not to like force what I like onto the kids.
Sure.
Like this is something I like to do, but doesn't mean you have to like. And if they gravitate towards that, cool, that's great.
But that's the thing. You present it not necessarily as an option, but it's not forced. And it's like, hey, have you guys ever done this? Well, no. Do you want to? Well, I don't know. And come on, guys, it'll be fun. I see you do that all the time.
That's my favorite thing to do with them. Introduce new things to their life, and they're like, oh my God, like this is actually. And even if they don't like it, maybe they just like me. So they're like, oh, well, if Leah likes it, we'll pretend.
Whatever it is. I mean, you have fond memories, right?
Yeah.
And when you get older, that's what you look back and you go, oh yeah, my dad and we always used to do this, or my mom and I used to do this on Sundays. Like it's establishing new traditions. And when I went through my divorce in Connecticut, that's part of the divorce process. You have to go through a parenting class, and they were adamant about not bringing new people into the fold until you and your kids were as healed as you possibly could be, or at least healed enough to where you were conscious as to what you were jumping into, rather than just an emotional rebound, or I'm lonely, I'm going to do this, because that can be completely toxic. And I think people need to be really, really cognizant of that.
And I think if I am going to defend your partner for 1 minute here, maybe she does feel uncomfortable, because this is the weirdest part about dating someone with an ex-spouse that has kids, right? If I ever bring up one of my exes to you, most of the time you're like, ugh, like you don't even want to hear about it. You don't even want to talk. But that's also a reason why I am who I am, because, we learn from our past relationships. And sometimes you have to bring up your ex to your partner. I'm not saying you have to talk about, oh, well, one time we went on a date and we did this and then he did this in the bedroom. Like, I'm not saying give details like that. But sometimes your current partner needs to know a little bit about your past to understand why you are how you are. Right. And Matt does not like me talking about, not that you don't like me talking about my ex, but it's not like an exciting.
There's so many. I get confused. It's hard to keep them all straight.
So
it's just a litany of dudes.
But it is uncomfortable for you, right? So for me, sometimes when we're talking about your ex, or you have to talk to your ex because you're co-parenting,
right,
it is uncomfortable and it's weird. And I'm not saying I'm a big fan of it, you know?
No, I understand.
But when you're co-parenting, they do have to have a relationship with their ex-spouse. And I think it can be weird and hard and uncomfortable for the new partner to step into this role where your partner is talking to their ex, and the kids are talking about their mom. And it's like, I have to sit there and be like, oh, well, that's great. Tell me more about what you did with mom, and it's not the kids' fault. So you have to be open and talk to the kids and be understanding. But as me, Leah, it's like, oh, sometimes it's cringe and it's uncomfortable, and you don't really know, like inside I'm like freaking out, but on the outside I'm like, oh, okay, sure, that's great. So I do think it's really hard for a person who's coming into this role as stepmom or stepdad to deal with these things.
And I think the onus is on whoever is the parent, whoever's children they
biological parent,
to go above and beyond to try to reassure your new partner that if you do have a relationship of any sort with your ex, which in my case I do, because as you said, we have split custody. We have 50-50 custody of these kids. So I may not see them every day, but they're just as important of a part of my life. Yes. So it's of the utmost importance in the early stages. Now. You've met my ex. Now. There's nothing to worry about. There's no awkward exchanges. Yeah. But I could understand objectively how it's annoying when you and I are sitting on the couch and you're like, why is she texting you? And 99.9
being why is she texting you, but it's just a reality, and it's just weird.
Right,
you know?
of course. And I'm not arguing with you. I completely understand and agree. Like, I would be annoyed for like, oh God, like back to like the email from months and months and months ago about the shared custody of the dog.
Right.
I have actual human beings that,
Right.
you know, I will go to prison if something bad happens to them. So they have to be
Right.
a big time priority. But if you are the one that is bringing the kids into the relationship, go out of your way and above and beyond to remind your new partner and put their mind at ease however possible. And there will be times where you go, are you seriously bothered by that? It may seem like the most ridiculous non-issue, but to your partner, if that is making them uncomfortable,
Right.
it's up
and
to
they're
you as
already going out of their way
Exactly.
to be a part of, like, have this, not that it's an issue or a hindrance, but it's like this whole new way of living that they're not used to.
Right.
So if they're going out of their way to be a step parent and be in this whole situation, then you need to go out of your way to make sure she's comfortable. And maybe she just feels uncomfortable, and I could be wrong, that maybe that's not it at all. But I think it's important to have an open, honest communication about it and not make her feel bad. Like, hey, sit down and talk to her. Why is this uncomfortable? You're having a hard time connecting. Can I do something to make it better? You know, because now you have a kid together. So now you're going to have your ex, who you have 2 kids with, and now this current partner that you have a kid with, and then you're going to go find someone else. And if you're not happy, then you're not happy. You don't want to just make it work just for the kids, but
you don't want to be setting up franchises, man.
Yes, give it a real effort and try and talk to her and ask her what it is that's truly bothering her. And maybe it's something that you haven't even thought of. Maybe it's something you're not even realizing. And just communicate.
And also, it wasn't even part of the question, but it gives me pause because as you were reading it, I thought of a doubt or a scenario I thought up in my head where if hypothetically someday you and I have a kid, now you have flesh and blood that is yours. You are by nature going to gravitate toward that child that is literally part of you. I think everyone's got to be cognizant of not letting that lessen the relationship with the other children because it's not their fault. They didn't ask for a new baby brother or so you got to be careful to make sure that everyone's taken care of equally and everyone's positioned within the family equally.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. Taking care of family, everybody involved all the time, no matter what.
Yeah, that's very true. I even was talking with my parents about that a few months ago, and it's like, no, everyone's equal. Kids always need to be equal. No one can be better than the other. It doesn't matter if we do have a kid, that is such a good point. I can't just be like, oh, well, this is my kid. And, they're all my kids. They're all my kids. They might not be my flesh and blood, but they're also part of my life before this other kid even came in. I mean, they made me a stepmom. I love your kids. I truly don't know. Like last time I was FaceTiming with Lennon, and you weren't even home. Like she just FaceTiming because she wanted to talk. Like it's just so cute. We're just chatting about this, that, and whatever. Just having girl talk. And the fact that she feels comfortable at 9 p.m. on a Monday night. And she's like, I want to see what Leah's doing, And to me, I try not to overbear because I don't know.
But you got there.
Right.
It wasn't like the first week you met them, they were blowing up your phone going, hey, let's talk. Let's do what you want to do. Yeah. Now they've learned, which again, I cannot stress enough. If at all possible, I know I'm beating a dead horse here. Avoid introducing anybody new to your children until you know, or at least are reasonably certain they're going to play a role in your life for the time being, because otherwise you're just setting your poor kids up for confusion.
I know, and that's not right either.
Completely agree.
What do you think? Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, let's go. We're on a roll. I have a second wind. I'm going to collapse as soon as we walk out of the studio, unless you want to go get chicken wings and beer with me. Oh,
my God, you guys.
Look at that thirst trap.
Look at this. Zaddy.
I like how you showed me that right as I was suggesting chicken wings and beer, because that point in my life, there were no chicken wings or beer.
I'm just going to set this as my profile picture.
Oh, then I'll never get laid ever again. You'd be like, that's the dude that used to be this.
Every time, I'm just going to print this out and just put it on
Just frame it above the bed. Put it on the ceiling.
No, babe, you still look like that. You're hot. Okay. Here we go. Question number 2, honey. I feel like all of our questions are about sex now. Hey, Matt and Leah, I love the podcast, and it's great listen every week. I love that you guys aren't perfect. I mean, come on.
Speak for yourself.
What? And you're open and honest. The reason I am writing in is that my wife and I have been together since we're 18 now. We're both 35 and have been married for 12 years.
Congrats.
And have a 14 and 8-year-old. The reason I'm sending this in is that I feel like I put more effort into our marriage than my wife. I have always been more sex orientated because when we have a good sex life, the rest of our relationship is great. I can agree with that. But my wife's sex drive is a lot lower than mine, and she says she needs more affection in our everyday life, which she gets when we have good sex. But when she doesn't bother, I feel like, what's the point in trying to show her affection? We aren't afraid of things like toys. I bought her lingerie, but it just sits doing nothing as I feel she doesn't want to make an effort. But every time we talk about it, it becomes an argument. Any advice?
I would direct you to last week's episode, first and foremost, featuring the spectacular, amazing Dr. Paz, because I believe she answered a question that was similar to this.
Yes.
First off, congrats on making it work this long.
Yes.
Second of all, I believe that the answer to your issue was in your initial question. You have a 14-year-old and an 8-year-old, and she is a wife that has been in your life, and I'm assuming takes care of at least the house. I don't know if he specified if she has a job. She's got a lot going on,
Right.
especially after all these years, and Dr. Paz put it much more eloquently than we can. So, again, just go back and listen to last week. She's doing as much as she can, and just because you see a window of opportunity, which I think all guys, I know I'm guilty of, where I get in the mood and I'm like, man, I'm feeling some kind of way. Hey, babe, what do you say we, later tonight we do this, that, and other thing? And you're like, cool, I'm riding my bike to the gym and I just mulched the backyard and I'm sweating and I've got 36 things happening. I can't take that as like, oh, well, she's not prioritizing me. She's just doing life.
Right.
You have to just pick and choose your options and wait for the window. And she says she wants more affection, like on a day-to-day basis. Do it.
Right. Not just because you're saying when you have sex, you have affection, but
that's not one and the same.
Right, but she doesn't want to have sex if she doesn't get the affection. Right. So, and you're only giving the affection when you're getting the sex. So you need to be more initiative or take more of an initiative. And I know that you're saying you have a better sex drive, higher sex drive, whatever. I guarantee if you're showing her more affection on a day-to-day basis, she's going to want to have more sex. But don't just show affection when you want sex. That is like my biggest pet peeve too. It's like, oh, why are you acting like that? Oh, because you want to have. Why can't you just love me when we're not going to have sex? Like, I think as women, we want to feel appreciated. We want to feel that affection. We want to feel special. We want to feel that little bit of a connection. Even if you listen to Matt's point about last week, what Dr. Paz said, you can be very busy all day and you walk by your partner, just give them a little kiss on the cheek or on the neck, or you grab their waist as you walk by, as you walk out the door, send them a nice little text during the day, something sweet, a cute little quote or something. That's all women. If you do that more often, I guarantee you just do that a little bit more during the week, I guarantee you start having more sex. If that's the only thing you do, send her a cute quote in the morning or send her a cute quote when she's at work. And when you walk by her, you kiss her neck or you grab her butt or something, just something cute. Do that a little bit more during the week. That's all you have to do. I guarantee you have more sex.
I'm going to blow up my own spot here because I know for a fact we have a lot of gentlemen who listen to this podcast who are probably wondering the same thing. How do I do better at that? Google is amazing. You can Google something like sexy love quote for her or honest to God. And I know you're laughing, and I like to do a little bit of scrolling. I start at least like the 7th or 8th page because that's the stuff I know you'll never find that. That's my trick. That's my secret.
Got it.
But do it. Screenshot a few of them, save them in your photos, and when you all of a sudden are thinking of your other half and you just, hey, you're a babe and you got a great butt or whatever, and you can save them as photos, and there's graphics that are just littering the internet. Just pick a couple of them up. Save them for a rainy day. Save it for when you're like, hey, I haven't talked to her in a while. Here's this little poem or little quote or whatever it is. And that in and of itself is not going to get you laid. But
it'll make her feel
breaks
like
the
you're
ice
thinking of her.
Before, for the longest time, and I think we've kind of both fallen off about when we're separate because we're never separate anymore. Yeah. We would end like every night. One of us would, what the hell was that for?
What? Oh, I just had.
You've been away from me for 2 days.
I was like,
you know what?
No, keep
I've had it with you. I'm just gonna text you things right now.
We're not bickering anymore.
I'm just texting.
Hey, finish your.
I'm not flirting. I'm just being extra friendly to someone who is extra attractive. See?
Anyway, you were saying that.
I was saying we used to do it like before, especially when we weren't living together, like a good night quote. And I mean, we would spend hours, or I know I would just scouring the internet for like cool quotes. that obviously weren't mine, but
Right.
they can convey what you're feeling. Sometimes other people can say what you mean better than you can.
Right. Or even
and
a
that's
cute
okay.
song, a song that you like the lyrics to. That was a big thing we used to do when we were just starting to date. We would send each other songs. And I would usually, because I would be somewhere I couldn't listen to music, I would look at the lyrics and I'd be like, oh my God, that's so cute. You know, like just cute things like that. And you don't want to stop that once you're, I mean, they've been together, what, 15 years or 12 years or something? Keep
Obviously, you got a hell of a
going.
foundation.
Yeah,
it's just
keep it
sometimes you just need to
going.
readjust a few things,
Yeah.
replan your game from time to time, spice it up. And again, listen to last week's episode with Dr. Paz. You guys have been awesome. We got a ton of great feedback. I think the doctor herself rather enjoyed her time. I would look forward to having her back. We're going to try some new things in the next few weeks and months, maybe some more guests. Some of you like them.
We heard all of your feedback. We read
Not
all of
all
your
of it.
feedback, a lot of it, saying that you do enjoy the fact that it's just Matt and I. We talk about our everyday lives and talk about, you know, our things that piss us off, the things that we like, the things that work. There was this one that someone was asking, like, what were some green flags you saw about each other when you first started dating and talking that you knew this person was going to be the one? I think that's a fun topic to like kind of dive into and get into, because we always talk about red flags. What about green flags?
Let's
talk
it.
about green flags.
I love it. Let's give that a
love
shot.
That, yeah.
We want to hear your green flags. Send them to bearwithuspod@gmail.com or comment on our social media, wherever you may be following
You guys,
us.
we didn't even fight today.
I know.
Look at us.
I don't have the energy to fight.
Give me your hand.
I'm trying to reserve energy in the off chance that I played my cards right and I actually get to, you know, at some point.
Babe, I love you.
I love you too.
If I could oh my God, I just realized I
Oh
had a
my
dream
God, I
last
was about
night.
to sign off.
I just had a dream last night that I was singing Cher and everyone was clapping and applauding and they were so into it and everyone thought I sounded just like her. I swear I just thought of that.
Were you on a
If I
thong
could
on a
turn back
battleship?
time,
Because if
if
not,
I could
not
find
interested.
a way,
As a matter of
I'd
fact,
take back all the words that
goodbye
I have
forever.
you, and you'd say,
goodbye
if I
forever.
could reach the stars,
Bear with us. I'll do your
I'd
part
give
too.
'em all to you.
Okay. All right.
And you
Peter,
love me,
Peter, get us out of
love me,
here.
love me.
Peter.